Welcome to the Airgun Show, brought to you by Airgun World magazine. You can find subscription details in the show description. In this week's episode, I'm taking a look at a really affordable airgun and scope combo. But before that, I'm heading out on a roving woodland shoot in not so summery conditions. Well, there's one in the bag. As you can see, I'm out in the woods today, targeting grey squirrels, and I thought that rather than the usual sort of bait and wait bait station tactics, I'd try a roving session. Now, it is a lot more challenging, but it can make for some really satisfying shooting, and there is the added advantage of being on the move and just being able to see a bit more of what's going on around your shoot. So let's go and get that one picked up and see if we can't get a few more. One over in that sunny spot, mate. Let's try and get to this next tree. Well, there is another one. That one was about 25 metres, so with this setup just needed a touch of hold under, and that absolutely clobbered it. Now, bearing in mind it's still only June while we're out filming this, that's the second one we've had in an oak tree, and I can't really imagine that the acorns, even for squirrels, are going to be ripe enough yet, but it's certainly worth bearing in mind that they're around the oaks. Let's go and get it. Right, well, as you can see, it is pretty boggy underfoot around a lot of this woodland, and it's just because it's been so wet recently. It's frustrating because the usual snag with summer squirrel shooting is not being able to see squirrels up in the leaves, up in the canopy, and then having crunchy twigs under your feet. What we've got today is squelchy mud. It means we're going to wear really heavy footwear too, so it's making the stalking tricky. Now, I think the best bet now is to just try a bit of an ambush. I've got a spot in mind. I've seen a couple of drays there previously. Last time I was here, I also spooked a couple of squirrels that were foraging on the ground. So I'm going to find a spot that gives me a good view of the ground as well as up into the trees, and we'll see what comes along. Quick shudder of the tail there, and that one was out like a light. It's about 30 metres. It seemed to be trying to get at something, like it was chewing away at a bit of mould or fungus on that log. I can see it's stone dead, so I'm I'm going to sit tight and see if anything else comes along. Well, I said I'd seen a few on the ground here on a previous visit. That one was trotting along on the deck. It's just about to disappear behind a tree. So I took the risk of giving it a quick squeak. Now that is a risk because the noise can make them bolt, but it had the desired effect on this occasion. Squirrel froze, sat bolt upright, offered me a nice clear shot. And there's another one bowled over. One point probably worth flagging actually is you will probably have noticed that I've been using support for all of the shots that I've taken today. Now, I didn't bring my sticks because I wanted to travel light, but nonetheless, if I'm using a recoilless gun, I want to take advantage of any gun support that I can get. So I'm using natural support like the tree trunk just to keep those shots dead steady and right on target. Right, well, it's gone really quiet now, so I think we will wrap it up here. But it's been a good session. I had a couple during the roving part of the outing, which I was hoping to do. As expected, it wasn't easy, so we've sat here, had a couple more, and it just proves that the best thing you can do in terms of stealth is to sit still and quiet, and it just does so much to eliminate that risk of you being spotted, and it's worked. You know, we've bagged a couple here, so what I'm going to do is get those picked up, and then we'll find a more comfortable spot and I'll sit down and chat you through the kit that I've been using for this session. Okay, so a quick look at the kit that I've been using for this session, and for those of you who watch regularly, it is actually a pretty familiar setup. The gun is my Daystate Huntsman Revere Safari Edition. It's a beautiful looking gun, and it's also very accurate. This model is a 177 sub 12 gun, and fitted with the 0 dB silencer, it is very quiet. The Huntsman Revere is also a relatively light air gun, so it's been no burden for me to carry around in the woods today. The scope is my trusty MTC King Cobra, held on with Sports Match scope mounts as usual. It's just a really nice optic. I like the reticle. Zoom range is spot on. It's just a very well suited scope for airgun use. The ocular is also a really good fit with my scope cam, which is great for doing this kind of thing. Ammo wise, I've got to be honest that the Huntsman isn't particularly pellet fussy, but recently I've been using it with QYS streamlined pellets. I've been using the heavier 9.56 grain version. Really nice clean pellets, shoot brilliantly through this gun and hit really hard. So yeah, that's the main kit items, and as you've seen, they've worked very well today, done a good job of helping me to further thin out the squirrels in these woods and reduce the damage that they're doing to the trees here. Really hard. Really hard. A few more destructive greys brought to book there, and they all count. Next up, I'm taking a look at a gun and scope combo that should be brilliant for airgun shooters who don't want to spend a fortune. We've had a few break barrel air guns on the show over the past few months, and this one really does represent amazing value for money. It's the Hammerli Black Force 400 combo kit. Distributed in the UK by John Rothery Wholesale, it has a recommended retail price of £119.95. Now that doesn't just buy you the gun, but also this 3 to 9x40 telescopic sight and mounts. At that price, this is a great entry-level airgun combo. Now it's a fairly standard 111 centimetres long, and tipping the scales at just under 2.5 kilos, it's also fairly light, and it should be manageable for shooters of all sizes and ages. It feels to be very robustly constructed, and it also looks good too. The black synthetic stock is ambidextrous and very tough. Now, the long forend has embossed panels with a checkering effect on both sides, as does the pistol grip. Now that pistol grip is very comfortable and sets me up really nicely for the trigger. Now the stock actually features a screw-off end cap at the bottom of the grip, and I suppose that cavity could actually be used for storage. In fact, I used to have a gun with a similar stock, and I used to stuff a pouch full of spare pellets in there. One thing I really like about this stock is the fact that the cheek piece is nice and high. It gives perfect eye alignment when using the supplied telescopic sight, and is also absolutely fine for the open sights. Now, the stock is finished with a ventilated soft rubber butt pad, which helps to soak up the modest recoil from the firing cycle, and I also really like the white spacer, which is a very nice touch on a gun at this price point. The finish of the metalwork is well up to scratch for a budget break barrel, and the fixing points for sling attachment are a really nice bonus. Now the open sights are bright fibre optics. They can be adjusted for windage and elevation, and you need to slacken off the relevant screws in order to do that. Now that means that they can't be adjusted on the fly, but I really can't see that being a significant problem. The cylinder is machined with a dovetail rail, which gives around 10 centimetres of clamping space for scope attachment. Now there's even an arrestor plate at the back to prevent the mounts from creeping. Now, as already mentioned, this combo comes supplied with a scope and mounts, and it's actually a pretty good little optic. It has a 3 to 9 times zoom, seems to be parallaxed at around 20 metres, which is just about perfect for an airgun like this, and it has a mil-dot reticle. So if you unscrew the caps, the windage and elevation turrets can be adjusted with a screwdriver. Their clicks are nice and positive, and each one makes a 1/4 inch adjustment at 100 yards. As I said at the start, this is a break barrel airgun with a spring-driven power plant. Now the cocking stroke isn't the slickest, and I really wouldn't expect it to be on a full power airgun of this price. However, the leverage provided by the 45 centimetre barrel means that it doesn't take a great deal of effort. Just remember to keep your hand back on the forend though, because you risk pinching your fingers if you don't. Loading is direct to the breech, and the lockup feels really nice and secure. The Revere gun is .22 calibre, and its muzzle energy is just over 10 foot-pounds. Now I've been really impressed with its consistency, which has remained within 7 feet per second over a string of 10 shots. The firing cycle is also pretty impressive, especially for a gun at this price point. It feels fast and it's not too twangy. Trigger release is via a 2-stage unit that has a wide curved blade with a grooved face. Now this is a heavy trigger and it can't be adjusted. In all honesty though, I wouldn't expect a super light trigger on an entry level airgun, and this one is fine once you get used to it. Now the first stage feels pretty normal and comes to a very obvious stop, and the second stage is predictable, but you do have to be positive with it because of that weight. The safety catch is automatic. It's set by the cocking stroke and you can reset it by drawing down the barrel again. Now it's really sensibly positioned at the rear of the cylinder and it pops out to the left when it's set. All you need to do is push it in when you're ready to take the shot. In terms of accuracy, the Black Force 400 is actually much better than I would expect for the money. Now of course you have to manage your expectations at this price point, but shooting from a bench, I was getting pretty consistent 1-inch groups at 20 meters. Now it did open up a bit beyond that, but I'm not at all surprised. So in terms of its applications, this gun's got the level of accuracy to tackle close range pest control such as ratting, but it really excels as a backyard fun gun and it's a brilliant tin toppler. So that is the Hammerli Black Force 400 combo kit. It's tough, it's easy to use, and it is brilliant fun to shoot. Most importantly, it provides an amazing introduction to our sport for less than £120, and that includes that telescopic sight and mounts. I would have loved something like this when I was starting out. I'm afraid that's all we've got time for in this week's episode, but as ever, I'll be back with more in 2 weeks' time. Thank you for watching, and please don't forget to like and subscribe. Do also check out those subscription offers that we have for Airgun World magazine. You can find a link to that in the show description. While you're there, there's also a link you can use to sign up for free to the Airgun World newsletter, which will keep you bang up to date with everything that's going on at the magazine. Now, do also keep an eye out for the forthcoming Airgun World podcast, also on this channel. As I said, I'm back again in a fortnight. In the meantime, enjoy your shooting and stay safe.